We're visiting Derek Underwood. Derek is the Assistant Commissioner of the South Carolina Department of Agriculture for Consumer Protection. Derek, we know that the laboratory service is a large part of your agency's responsibility, but there are also other divisions that fall under your overview. What are some of the other things that you are responsible for?
That's right, Amanda. We have 3 other departments in our Consumer Protection Division. One is the Consumer Services Department. Consumer Services is exactly what it says. We go out and service and provide services for the consumers of our state. One of those is our weights and measures section. Now, when you hear of weights and measures, the first thing that comes to your mind is, what are you weighing and what are you measuring? Well, for instance, when you go to the grocery store and you buy produce or meat or something that you purchase by weight, you put it on a scale. They have the scales when you're leaving the grocery store, and sometimes they have the scales back at the meat market.
Yes, they do.
We check those scales to make sure that they're accurate.
You mean each one of the checkout counters, you check that scale?
We do. Look for that sticker when you go by that says it's been inspected and approved. We check every one of those once a year, and to check to make sure that the scales are accurate and that the weights that are on the package or the weights that you're buying are accurate, so you get what you pay for.
Well, I'll feel better when I'm buying some very expensive item of produce the next time I'm there.
There you go.
And what else is involved in that department?
Well, anything by weight or by volume that you do. So if you think about volume, what do you buy by volume? The first thing that comes to mind is gas or diesel or any petroleum product. When you go to the gas station and you pull the nozzle out and you stick it to your tank, it starts spinning. And we check to make sure that that's accurate. We have devices that we call provers, P-R-O-O-V-E-R-S, provers. We're proving that pump is accurate. A lot of times we'll go in and we'll check to make sure that the pump's reading accurately, to make sure there's no jumping of the numbers when you come in. We check to make sure that the nozzle's not leaking. And we just make sure that when you go as the buying public, that when you buy a gallon of gasoline or 10 gallons or 20 gallons, that you're getting exactly what you pay for.
Well, I hear some people say, well, I've got a tank I use for my boat, and when it's empty, when I fill it up, I don't feel like I'm getting my full 5 gallons.
Right. A lot of times we'll hear that same story or complaints that have come in, and we take all complaints seriously, but a lot of them are from folks that believe that their tank is calibrated exactly right, or that the 5-gallon plastic gas tank or gas can that they purchased at the big box store, that it's calibrated exactly. Well, when you buy something that's $5 or $8, it's not accurate. It's close, but it's not accurate. The ones that we use cost about $600 a piece. They're stainless steel and they measure to a cubic inch. So theirs are very, very accurate. They have to be calibrated on occasion, and those are the ones that we use to get the precise amount of fuel that you purchase, not the $5 can.
And when trucks have to get off the highway, are y'all responsible for those scales there?
We do. The scales that are there, when you go by and somebody drives a truck over there to make sure they're not overweight, we check those scales as well. Even the port in Charleston, people that are bringing in products for export or bringing in products for import or exporting products, we go by to verify that those scales are accurate as well. Livestock scales. If I'm a farmer or I raise cattle and I'm going to market to sell my cows, I want to make sure that that scale is accurate because I want to get as much money per pound as I possibly can get. So we go by and check those as well.
And if I've been collecting aluminum cans and scrap metal and want to go to the recycling center, can I be certain I'm going to get the right amount of money?
Yes, ma'am, you can, because we actually have to check those scales as well. Anything that's sold by weight or by volume, we have to be inspected and approved by the Department of Agriculture.
Goodness. In my community of St. Matthews, there are a lot of cotton warehouses.
Yes, ma'am.
And they are supposedly filled with cotton, and then there are other places that where people store things. Is that something that y'all check on to make certain that what's in them is supposed to be in them?
That's right. Our Consumer Services Department also has a warehouse division where we go out to, say, cotton warehouses to verify that the cotton that a farmer brings in or that the warehouse is storing is actually physically there. We check the cotton receipts to make sure and do a visual count of every single bale to make sure that the cotton there is actually in the storage facility and is stored in its proper manner. And there's no rodents, there's no insects, there's no water penetration or anything that could damage the cotton. And that's very important for the farmer who pretty much has invested a lot of money in those bales. Before they're sold, they have to be stored in a proper facility.
That's really his bank.
That's his bank. And if he goes to the bank to get a loan, we provide the tags or the verification that that cotton is actually stored and it's actually accounted for.
So he's got a safety deposit
He does. He has it in his hand.
Yeah.
And not only cotton, but also grain products, corn, wheat. These giant silos you see going down the road,
yes.
A lot of these places hold that product for different farmers and for different operations. So when it comes time for selling the product, we make sure that that grain and that corn is actually stored there and is actually accounted for as well.
So you have to go up on the top and look down and drop measuring devices
we
sometimes,
climb up
I
on the
guess.
top of those and we drop down a cord to make sure that it's at the right level that's on their ticket. So we verify that, and that protects the farmer and protects the consumer as well.
And then we have a lot of distribution centers in South Carolina and some manufacturing centers. We've got some places that produce frozen vegetables, that can vegetables, that a lot of things going on. And y'all are looking over those to make certain that what comes out is safe for us to eat.
Right. Under consumer protection, we also have a food and feed safety and compliance department. That department is kind of like the Food and Drug Administration or the FDA minus the drug.
All right.
We go out to these manufacturing facilities. We check for sanitation. We check for good manufacturing practices. We check for making sure that the physical building is suitable for that. And we check the actual process and the records. For instance, if someone is making a product that contains milk or contains nuts, and they're also making a product that does not contain milk or does not contain nuts, we verify that there's either a segregation between the two locations or there's a proper cleaning procedure between those two steps, because people that have allergies and have a real sensitivity to different types of ingredients, it could be deadly to them if we're not out there to make sure that that's happening.
So we know if we're buying a South Carolina product that somebody's been in there making certain that it's been processed and put in the can and treated the right way.
That's correct. We go through there periodically based on the risk of that facility, and we do a thorough inspection when it comes to going around with our flashlight and reviewing records and checking temperatures and checking processing records, and just sometimes we just sit there and watch employees just to see how they handle the food and whether that they have on the proper clothing and gloves and hairnets and things like that. We do everything to protect the consumers and make sure that when you go out and you buy a South Carolina product, that it's wholesome, it says what it says, and it's free of allergens or any other types of filter contamination.
Now, if I happen to go out in the yard and dig up my grandmother's silver that she'd buried during the Civil War, and I wanted to take it and sell it, metrology might come into there.
That's correct. We have another department within our Consumer Protection Division. It's called metrology, not to be confused with meteorology, which is, I guess, with weathermen and things like that. We have metrologists who are certified at the national level. We have to have intensive certification and classes to be able to do this. We actually check to make sure that measuring devices for volume and by mass are accurate and correct. We have a laboratory here in Columbia that actually checks things, even for like Boeing aircraft, that brings in their weights to make those precision measurements that they have to do. Bridgestone tires, they bring in different types of weights for us to check and for us to calibrate to make sure that they're correct. Even the $600 provers that we use in our weights and measures department, that's brought into metrology to calibrate that as well.
Really?
So we have large mass rooms where we check weights up to 500,000 pounds that aren't quite as finicky, I could say, as these smaller weights, maybe the size of your tip of your eyelash, or some of the smaller weights that we calibrate.
Really, down to that exact science?
That's exact science. And these rooms are so precise. The environment has to be within a half a degree temperature fluctuation. It has to be completely enclosed. We actually have what's called an inertia block that actually anticipates and compensates for the Earth's spin, to make sure that the scales and things that we use are as accurate and within tolerance.
Gosh, and here I thought all y'all were doing was looking at the collard greens to be sure there weren't any insects under the leaves and being certain that my turnips were going to sprout.
The agriculture department in this state has a lot of different facets to it, and we take a lot of pride in what we do to protect the consumers.
Well, I'm very proud of the South Carolina Department of Agriculture's Consumer Protection Division, and if people would like to know more, is there a place where they could do that?
They can. It's agriculture.sc.gov.
Yes.
And when you go to that, it's a whole the whole website for the whole entire department. And if you click on Consumer Protection Division, it brings up all the different departments underneath that umbrella, and you can go and dig down a little bit further by clicking on those to find out exactly a little more specifics on what we do.
Well, thank you so much for explaining what you do here today.
Thank you. Glad to have you.